This is the third part of the process of gametogenesis, which we'll be discussing will be oogenesis. Now, before we go into the details of oogenesis, there are certain terms which are parallel between spermatogenesis and oogenesis. Like in case of spermatogenesis, we said that the cells are going to divide the primary germ cells to form spermatogonia. Here it will be oogonia. Then it's going to enter the growth phase. Then that is termed as primary spermatocyte. Here it will be primary oocyte. Then it will enter meiosis 1, secondary spermatocyte. Here it will be secondary oocyte. So terms are almost same, but I just want to highlight there are many differences between the process of spermatogenesis and oogenesis, but I want to highlight two major differences between these two processes, that is spermatogenesis and oogenesis. First, when the processes start. Now in case of spermatogenesis, we have seen it starts at the time of puberty, but in case of oogenesis, it starts during fetal development. That means when the ovaries start forming in the fetus itself, the process of oogenesis starts. That means here it begins before birth. And you also found that in case of spermatogenesis, this process is completed within the testes, that is within the seminiferous tubule. But in case of oogenesis, the process will be completed only when a sperm will reach to the surface in an egg, that means at the time of fertilization. Otherwise, the process will still be incomplete. Another major difference that we find that in case of spermatogenesis, during meiosis 1 and meiosis 2, that means during the maturation stage, equal cytokinesis takes place. That means the cell divides equally and resulting in the formation of 4 equal spermatids, which gets transformed into 4 functional spermatozoa. But in case of oogenesis, during the maturation phase, that is during meiosis 1, what we have is unequal cytokinesis. That means the cell is going to divide unequally, resulting in the formation of one large haploid secondary oocyte and a small polar body. Again during meiosis 2, again cytokinesis will be unequal, and what will be formed will be a single ovum and a second polar body, meaning that in case of females, one egg is formed once a month in each cycle. But in case of males, from one primary spermatocyte, 4 functional sperms are found. So these are two major differences, but you will find that there are many more differences between these two processes, and this is an important question in your board exam, that is differences between spermatogenesis and oogenesis. Now coming to the process in detail. Oogenesis, what we said, it is a process of formation of the egg, and where it is going to occur in the ovaries of the female. Just now we said that egg formation, it begins before birth, but it's completed only at the time of fertilization. Now oogenesis, again same way as we had in spermatogenesis, consists of 3 phases. Multiplication phase, where the primary germ cells will divide mitotically, form masses of cells called as oogonia. One of the oogonia will enter the growth phase, grow in size, and will be referred to as primary oocyte. And the primary oocyte will undergo maturation phase, that is meiosis 1 and meiosis 2, and it will be again with unequal cytokinesis, and it will be formation of secondary oocyte and then a single ovum. Now this is a diagram of the human ovary, and if you recall, we said when we discussing the ovary, it is surrounded by the germinal epithelium. So this striations as we see here is the germinal epithelium. Below this is the fibrous layer, that is tunica albuginea. Then we have is the ovarian stroma, which is divided into outer ovarian cortex. So this is the whole ovarian cortex, and a central ovarian medulla. In the cortex region, you see the ovarian follicles developing, and in the medulla you have the connective tissue, the blood vessels, the nerve fibers, smooth muscles, etc. Now coming to the process, now you have during fetal development, that means before birth in the fetus, the germinal epithelium is going to divide, form masses of undifferentiated cells which is called as oogonia. And since these oogonia assemble in a tube-like structure, so this is referred to as an egg tube. Now this egg tube now will become as a mass of cells, so this is referred to as egg nest. In that egg nest, one of the oogonium is going to increase in size. So that means it is going to enter the growth phase, and so the oogonium will be transformed into the primary oocyte, and the rest of the cells which are present in the egg nest will surround the primary oocyte. Now what it has transformed, this will be called as the primary follicle. So within this oocyte, within this, that means just before birth, within the primary oocyte, maturation phase will start. That means meiosis 1 will begin, but will be arrested in the diplotin stage of prophase 1. So when a female is born at birth, she will have about 1 million primary follicles in her ovary, in each of her ovary. And this will stop. There will be no further development till she reaches puberty. But from birth to puberty, many of these primary follicles will degenerate, what is referred to as follicular atresia or atretic follicles. And ultimately she is left with 60,000 to 80,000 primary follicles in each ovary. At the time of puberty now, due to the release of the gonadotropins from the hypothalamus and the anterior pituitary, the follicles will resume their growth. So primary follicles will be transformed into secondary follicles. So what are the changes? This follicular sheath that is surrounding the primary oocyte in the primary follicle will differentiate into layers of granulosa cells. So these are the layers of granulosa cells surrounding the primary oocyte, which is here. And another membrane, that is the theca, will develop from the cortex, and these are the features of the secondary follicle. First, layers of granulosa cells being formed from the follicular sheath of the primary follicle. Second change is formation of a new membrane that is called as theca from the cortex, ovarian cortex. Then the secondary follicle will get transformed into tertiary follicle. So what are the changes seen in the tertiary follicle? First change, the theca that was formed in the secondary follicle will differentiate into two layers, theca externa and theca interna, and plus the granulosa cells surrounding the primary oocyte will secrete a fluid and form a fluid-filled cavity, and this is referred to as antrum. Third change, the primary oocyte will complete meiosis 1, which had started before birth in the primary follicles itself but got arrested, that means stopped at diplotin stage. So now this here in the tertiary follicle, it will complete meiosis 1. So after meiosis 1, what I said just now, unequal cytokinesis will occur, resulting in the formation of a large haploid secondary oocyte and a first small polar body. And these granulosa cells surrounding the secondary oocyte will secrete the first female hormone, that is estrogen. Now the tertiary follicle will resume their growth and development and will get transformed into a Graafian follicle. Now this Graafian follicle, the secondary oocyte within the Graafian follicle will secrete a non-cellular layer around the secondary oocyte that is called as zona pellucida. Secondary oocyte will also start meiosis 2, but it is arrested at the metaphase 2 of meiosis 2 due to accumulation of metaphase promoting factor. Now the Graafian follicle will reach to the surface of the ovary. It's going to rupture, release this secondary oocyte into the abdominal cavity, from where they will be taken by the fimbriae of the fallopian tube and transported to the ampulla part of the fallopian tube, where fertilization will take place. And as you can see, the secondary oocyte is surrounded by two layers. You have the non-cellular layer as the zona pellucida and the multicellular layer surrounding it, the corona radiata. And the corona radiata are basically the granulosa cells surrounding the secondary oocyte. And this release of the secondary oocyte from the Graafian follicle is called, this process is called as ovulation. Now after ovulation, the granulosa cells and the theca interna will get transformed into a yellow body that is called as corpus luteum. And since the corpus luteum contains a yellow pigment which is rich in lipid, so that is why it's referred to as corpus luteum. And these cells containing the lipid, these are called as lutein cells. So this corpus luteum will be responsible for secretion of second female hormone, that is progesterone. If fertilization does not take place, then the corpus luteum will degenerate into a fibrous mass that is called as corpus albicans. And when will oogenesis get completed? When this secondary oocyte reaches to the ampulla of the fallopian tube, and if a sperm reaches to the surface of the egg, that's why it has the acrosome which secretes the enzymes collectively called as sperm lysins, and they dissolve these egg coverings and it reaches to the surface of the egg, that will trigger completion of meiosis 2. Only at that time the single ovum and the second polar body will be formed. Then obviously all these changes occurring within the ovary is under the influence of hormones from the anterior pituitary. So first hormone from the anterior pituitary, that is FSH, is responsible for the follicular growth of these ovarian follicles. That's why it's referred to as follicle stimulating hormone. So these are responsible for the growth of these ovarian follicles till a mature Graafian follicle is formed. Then this process, that is ovulation, in presence of high levels of estrogen secreted by the granulosa cells and LH from the anterior pituitary, that is responsible for the process of ovulation. LH will also be responsible for formation of corpus luteum, and under the influence of LH only, the corpus luteum will stimulate it to secrete the second female hormone, that is progesterone. And if fertilization does not occur, there will be dip in the levels of progesterone, and as a result this corpus luteum will degenerate into corpus albicans. So these are the events occurring within the female ovary. Now coming to the various stages of oogenesis. First is the multiplication phase. Just now we said during fetal development we find that certain cells in the germinal epithelium undergo mitotic division, producing a mass of cells which we refer to as oogonium. The oogonium will form egg tubes which will give rise to an egg nest. Now comes the next phase, that is the growth phase. During fetal development itself, one of the oogonium will grow in size and function as the primary oocyte. and other cells which are present in the nest, they are going to form a follicular sheath around the primary oocyte, and this is now referred to as primary follicle. At birth, we will find a female has 1 million ovaries in her each ovary. 1 million follicles in each ovary. And a number of these follicles will degenerate between birth and puberty, a process that we call as follicular atresia. And at puberty, each ovary will contain only 60,000 to 80,000 primary follicles. Third phase is the maturation phase, where we have meiosis 1 and meiosis 2 occurring. This also begins in the fetal stage of the female. The primary oocyte will begin meiosis 1 in the fetus itself, but stops or gets arrested in the diplotein stage of prophase 1. Now, in this phase, the ovarian follicle containing the oocyte will remain so. That means it will not grow further in size till it reaches puberty. When a female reaches puberty, the follicles start their development, and usually one follicle will grow in size. It means one Graafian follicle will form once a month. So one egg will be released once a month, or rather one secondary oocyte will be released once a month. Now, first change that will occur at the time of puberty is that the follicular sheath will differentiate into layers of granulosa cells. And another change will be another layer that we call as theca will develop from the cortex. The primary follicle will get transformed into the secondary follicle. Then the third change in the tertiary follicle. So this was about the secondary follicle. So what will happen in the tertiary follicle? The theca will get differentiated into theca externa and theca interna. And the granulosa cells, they secrete a fluid, and that causes the formation of a cavity called as antrum around the primary oocyte. So this stage is now called as the tertiary follicle. Now when the primary oocyte grows further, it completes meiosis 1 in the tertiary follicle. I say this is unequal division, which results in the formation of a large haploid secondary oocyte and a small polar body. The secondary oocyte will retain the bulk of the nutrition that is present in the primary oocyte, because it occurs, primary oocyte is after the growth phase where it accumulates nutrition. So that is what we are saying here. It retains the bulk of the nutrient rich cytoplasm of the primary oocyte. And why this unequal kinesis occurs? Because all the nutrition is retained with a single ovum, and after fertilization, during the initial stages of embryonic development, the nutrition needed for that will be from this single ovum. So all the nutrition is retained with the single large ovum, which is utilized later on during the initial stage of the embryonic development. Now the tertiary follicle will grow to a maximum size, and now what it is called as a Graafian follicle. The secondary oocyte in the Graafian follicle will secrete a new membrane, a non-cellular membrane, and that is called as zona pellucida around it. And within the Graafian follicle, the secondary oocyte will start meiosis 2, but will stop at metaphase 2. And since meiosis 2 is not completed, it is still as secondary oocyte. And this will be due to what? The accumulation of metaphase promoting factor, short form you write it as MPF. Now the Graafian follicle is going to rupture to release the secondary oocyte, and this process is called as ovulation. And when the sperm enters the secondary oocyte, it triggers the breakdown of the metaphase promoting factors and promotes the synthesis of anaphase promoting complex, APC, and meiosis 2 is completed. Again, this will be unequal cytoplasmic division, and that is going to result in the formation of a single ovum and a second polar body. The two polar bodies disintegrate, and the ovum will soon change into a diploid zygote. So this was about the various stages of oogenesis along with the follicular development. So this is the figure similar to what we had in the spermatogenesis, where you have the oogonia during the fetal life undergoing mitosis, and one of the oogonia is going to grow in size, form the primary oocyte. And here within the primary oocyte, meiosis 1 will start but will stop at the diplothene stage of prophase 1. So the female is born with 1,000,000 follicles in each ovary. Many degenerate from birth to puberty. At the time of puberty, the primary oocyte will undergo meiosis 1, resulting, which is unequal cytokinesis, resulting in the formation of secondary oocyte and the first polar body. This secondary oocyte will complete meiosis 2 only when a sperm reaches to the surface of the secondary oocyte. Then at that time meiosis 2 will be completed and resulting in the formation of a single ovum and the second polar body. Now coming to the hormonal control of oogenesis. Again, it has parallel to what we have seen in spermatogenesis. You have first the gonadotropin releasing hormone from the hypothalamus stimulating the anterior pituitary to secrete two hormones, that is FSH and LH. FSH stimulates follicular growth and maturation of the oocyte, and the granulosa cells surrounding the oocyte will produce the first female hormone, that is estrogen. In presence of high levels of estrogen and LH, at that time the Graafian follicle will rupture and release the secondary oocyte. That process is called as ovulation. And high concentration of estrogen will also inhibit the secretion of FSH and GnH, which is again called as the negative feedback control. LH then will convert the ruptured Graafian follicle into the yellow body called as corpus luteum, which secretes the second female hormone, that is progesterone. Progesterone is important because that is called as a pregnancy hormone, and when fertilization takes place, it maintains the pregnancy throughout the 9 months of the gestation period. So if progesterone is not, if fertilization is not there, then the levels of progesterone is going to decrease due to the degeneration of corpus luteum. And high concentration of progesterone will further inhibit release of luteinizing hormone from the anterior pituitary and GnRH from the hypothalamus. So this was about the hormonal control of on the process of oogenesis. Now coming to the last part of oogenesis, that is human ovum. So human ovum, you will find we say it is alecithal. Alecithal means without yolk, because it obtains its nourishment from the female body. You can have classification of eggs on the basis of the amount of yolk. You can have microlecithal like in Amphioxus, where you have it has small amount of yolk. You can have mesolecithal, moderate amount of yolk, like in fish eggs. You can have macrolecithal, large amount of yolk, like in the bird's eggs. So human egg, we said, is alecithal, and it has the cytoplasm called as ooplasm. It's rich in nutrients. In the periphery, the nucleus will be eccentric, though it's not visible in this figure. That means it will be towards one side, not in the center. And in the periphery of this, the ovum, there will be cortical granules secreted by the Golgi bodies. This is covered by a plasma membrane, the ovum, which is called as plasma lemma or ooplasm. Now the ovum, it has two layers when it's released as secondary, and here also it will be as secondary oocyte. It will have a spindle there because it is in the metaphase 2 stage. So the nucleus will not be as such, it will be having a spindle within because it is in what? Suspended metaphase 2 stage. Now the egg or the secondary oocyte is surrounded by, when it's released from the Graafian follicle, it has two layers. One layer is non-cellular layer called as zona pellucida, and another is the multicellular layer that is called as corona radiata. Zona pellucida is secreted by the secondary oocyte, and it has receptors for sperm. So when a sperm reaches, it binds to the receptors present on the zona pellucida, and that is going to trigger completion of meiosis 2, formation of the single ovum and the second polar body. Cells of the corona radiata are basically granulosa cells surrounding the secondary oocyte, and these are held by a ground substance which are called as hyaluronic acid. And the egg will show polarity, that means the side from where the polar bodies are given off, that is called as the animal pole, and the opposite side will be called as the vegetal pole. And the space between the plasma membrane and the zona pellucida, there is a space there that is called as perivitelline space. So this was about the ovum, which we said is alecythal, that is without yolk, and it contains a large amount of cytoplasm covered by plasma membrane or oolemma. And cytoplasm is called as ooplasm, which is rich in nutrients, but the outer region of the cytoplasm or ooplasm contains cortical granules, which is secreted by the Golgi bodies. Nucleus will find as eccentric, that is away from the center, and always generally in the metaphase 2 stage before fertilization. It has two coverings, inner non-cellular zona pellucida and outer multicellular corona radiata. Zona pellucida is a glycoprotein covering, and it has receptor proteins for the attachment of sperms. Corona radiata are part of the granulosa cells held by a mucopolysaccharide, which is referred to as hyaluronic acid. That is the ground substance holding these cells together. The ovum will show polarity. The side which gives out the polar bodies is called as the animal pole, and the opposite side is the vegetal pole. So that was all about the process of oogenesis. Thank you. And any doubts, you can easily text me. That's all for today. God bless you all.